my darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm doing another Top 5 Wednesday. As always, the Goodreads group is in the description below if you want to check that out. And this week's topic is books featuring vampires. I mean, the official topic is books featuring your favorite monster, creature, non-human, Halloween-y type thing. And for me, I picked vampires. I don't know why I described it like that. For me, vampires are just a little more interesting than other kind of monster creatures because they have like a different way of luring in their victims. Okay, yes, sometimes people do get attacked by vampires, like pulled off the street or attacked in the woods, and their blood gets sucked out of them and they're left dry, left in the alley, or just laying there to just rot. It happens, but my favorite stories are the ones where the vampire is like actively luring its victim in and it takes time. And sometimes it's hypnosis or being able to use mind reading, and sometimes it's just sex. Like, there's the sexual element to a vampire, which makes it more interesting than some of these other monsters. I'm not even gonna lie, that's part of the appeal. Anyway, these are my top picks for books that feature vampires and why I love them. So honorable mention goes to the Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer. Book 1 is Twilight. These follow Bella, who is a typical normal teenager who ends up falling in love with a vampire who is constantly trying to tell her that, yo, I'm a vampire, we can't be together, back off, lady. But she's so totally in love with him, and Edward is completely obsessed with her staying human. And there's this whole element where she thinks it's really sweet that Edward doesn't want to change her into a vampire. Honestly, I loved these books in college and thought they were awesome. And I especially love in the first book the way that like Bella's desire for Edward is described, like that feeling of having a crush on somebody that you know it's never going to happen with. Over time, these books start getting repetitive. Bella's a weak character. She's annoying to read. Edward becomes annoying, and I'm not such a fan of the whole series. So, used to love these books, now not so much. Moving on to my list proper, my first pick is Carpe Jugulum by Terry Pratchett. This is one of the Discworld novels. This is a satire of the vampire genre, and in this book, a family of vampires gets invited to this like wedding feast at a castle, and they decide they're not going to leave and instead are going to terrorize this village. The witches, along with a priest, set about to slay the vampires. And it's Discworld, so it's really funny and smart and clever. It's also a book that I haven't read in 10 years, so I kind of forgot the plot of the book and had to look it up. But I distinctly remember these characters and these vampires, like that holds the spot in my imagination. So I'm putting it on the list, even though I had to, needed a refresher course. Okay, the next book on my list is Insatiable by Meg Cabot. This is another take on the vampire craze. We have our main character, Mina, who works on a soap opera, and she gets told that they're going to revamp it to compete with another soap opera that has gone vampire, and they are also going to go vampire, and Mina is like, I am so sick of vampires. But this being a vampire book, Mina actually meets a guy who is a vampire, falls in love with him, and there's also a vampire slayer lurking around trying to kill her boyfriend. It's romantic and fun and clever, and it does a really good job of satirizing both the vampire craze and all the vampire haters, and it still works, and I thoroughly appreciate this. I love Mina as a main character, and I totally relate to her, moral dilemma about, I hate vampires, but my boyfriend's a vampire, and he's really alluring. Next on my list is the Sookie Stackhouse or True Blood series by Charlaine Harris. Book 1 is Dead Until Dark. These follow Sookie Stackhouse, who is a human. So Sookie actually has a mystical power in that she can read minds, and she's completely enthralled with these vampires because she can't read their mind. And so it's kind of this relaxing thing to hang out with people that you don't always know what they're thinking. In the True Blood series, there is this synthetic blood that the vampires can drink, so they've now come out into the open. And they're like, hey, we're humans too now. And so I love watching the society react to, oh my gosh, there are suddenly vampires, to also just watching these particular vampires like Sookie's boyfriend Bill and Eric, who owns this nightclub. And just, the characters are fun. These are also mysteries, so there's like a death or crime or something that happens in each book and trying to solve them. So yes, I love the true blood. Also on my list is the Jane Austen Vampire series by Michael Thomas Ford. Book 1 is Jane Bites Back. This is kind of a what if Jane Austen was still alive and was a vampire. So we have the smart, clever, sassy Jane Austen, writer of Pride and Prejudice and Emma. In this story, we have a new Jane Austen book that she's written and she's trying to get published and trying to find her niche, but for some reason she can't find a publisher for it. Like, her old publishers have died, and she can't publish under the name Jane Austen because she's supposed to be dead. So part of it's that struggle. She's also working in a small town and owns a bookshop, which I love that element of it. And we see other famous authors make appearances as vampires. So she meets Charlotte Bronte and Lord Byron. And basically it's just Jane having a normal life. But the twist is that she's a vampire. And she doesn't want to suck blood, but it's kind of necessary for her not to die. It's total chick lit read, and I adore it. So if you're looking for a fun chick lit that happens to have vampires, and if you love Jane Austen, this is totally amazing. Check it out. My final pick for vampire books is Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is the original, the classic, the one that started it all, and it earns all of its fame, honestly. This story follows Jonathan Harker and his wife Mina as they encounter Count Dracula, who is this wealthy nobleman in Transylvania who is looking for a house in England, and Jonathan gets called in to make arrangements. Dracula kind of gets this obsession with Mina, and I think her friend also. Anyway, there's this whole thing with Dracula trying to lure Mina over to his castle, and he wants to suck their blood. I mean, they don't know he's a vampire at first, which makes it really creepy. Basically, I love this book. I love the atmosphere in here. I love how villainous Dracula is, but at the same time, you can kind of see the pull and this hypnotic power that he has. If you guys love vampires and you haven't read Dracula already, do it, because it is totally worth it. And it's definitely a horror story. One of my top picks for books that feature vampires. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite books are, and if you love or hate any of the books on my list, let me know that too. As always, the complete list of books is in the description below, as well as links to any book reviews that I've done for videos that I've mentioned. Peace out, I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye!